everybody. Welcome to another Sunday morning miracle. Today, we're going to talk about our relationships, how to build successful relationships, and how we've been building loveless relationships our whole lives. So, the ego does not want to hear that, but that's the type of relationships that we've been building, right? Loveless ones. And here is, before anybody gets triggered, it is what we've been building. Anytime we put expectations onto a relationship, they're really actually loveless ones. And I'll make a distinction of loveless and love first, right? So, first of all, in order to build successful relationships, you have to align that with the way God has relationship with us. So then we have to first contemplate what or who is God. And so God is love. That's it. It's very simple. God is love. And the Course says that only love is real and love is all encompassing. It has no opposites. Now, how many times in our relationships, doesn't matter who it's with, we've had loveless thoughts? Anytime, the Course says that anytime that you feel triggered or you've lost your peace, it's because you had loveless thoughts. And thoughts create form on some level. All thoughts create form on some level. That's how powerful our thoughts are. So when you have a loveless thought, cause loveless thought, affect loveless experience. It's not the other way around. So I know we just started the call and we just went boom right into it. It's because I've been watching some of my own replays. I'm like, man, I spend the first like 3 minutes talking about nothing and diddly daddling around, and it's not going to have anybody continue watching. So I wanted to open up with a powerful statement, right? And the Course also says that we've talked about this a lot. Our loveless thoughts stem from fear, right? There's really only two emotions that we ever have and we ever experience, is fear or it's love. It's very simple. We may think that there's a whole bunch of things in between, but there's really not. It's either love or it's fear. Okay, those are the only two options that we really have. So now we can make it real easy. Because if we don't make it black and white like that, and we find all the gray areas in between, we're never going to hold ourselves accountable. And it gets confusing because the ego is going to say, oh, but this and that, and I'm justified in the way that I'm thinking. Right. And so how does this all go back to our relationships, and what do we need to do? Right? What can we apply into our lives? When we wake up in the morning, and if the first thing, because I noticed that for myself, that's why I wanted to bring this up. The first thing I do is grab my cell phone. It's so weird. Cell phone represents the material. Everything in the cell phone represents the material, represents this material world that was created out of separation, which means it was created out of fear. It all stemmed from the tiny mad idea, the Course calls it, where we thought our first loveless thought ever. The first loveless thought was that what if I could be something other than the full expression of God? That was the tiny mad idea. And it matches up with the whole Big Bang Theory. One thought created this world of the physical. And because of the physical, see, sometimes we have thoughts, right? Sometimes we have thoughts that are just, we feel it. It's extremely real for us, even though it may not be real. The fear of something creates a real experience, even though it may not be real, right? And so this tiny mad idea, it all stemmed from, if there was something, somehow I'm separate from love only. What if that was real? See, even the question of what if that was real created an illusion, a whole reality for us that isn't the truth. Now, because God is love and love is all encompassing, God doesn't see us as have done something wrong. Now, how would God bring us back? Not through loveless actions, right? Not through loveless thoughts. We don't force somebody to come back. We don't guilt them to come back. We don't punish them to come back. That's the love thought from God, right? We don't force somebody. We don't. They're good where they are. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. So God left us with one thing. Here's a connection that will never be gone. Here's the Holy Spirit. It is always in you, and you always know. You can always recognize the truth no matter how dark of a space you're in. We can always recognize light. And we will recognize love, basically. All those things interchangeable. We will always recognize those things. Inside us, we know we are already equipped with the voice that connects to the truth. Now, we choose to forget all the time. If we choose to forget and we have triggering moments and we lose our peace and we judge people and we attack people, whether it's in our minds or physical, either way, they are all errors to be corrected. And so God, seeing everything as love, there is constantly eh, there's constantly moving little parts that is going to be right in front of you for you to awaken to that truth. And that comes in the form of people, of events, of situations. So I want to focus on the people part today. Right? So people. If there was just a big computer, let's say the universe is just this big computer, always matching things up. Anywhere that there is something that is off, that is not operating, that is in complete alignment with love, it will match it with something so that it may recognize or that it could be corrected. An algorithm comes and corrects the mistake. And what is the correction? For each one of us, there is no accidents who comes into our lives. There is no accidents. The family that you're born into, the relationship that you're in, the friends that surround you with, the mentors that you have, the business partners, anything. No accidents in all of that. And all Spirit and God asks is, here's a different way for you to look at it. Spirit holds that reminder for us that there is always a different way to look at it. And because loveless thoughts are in your mind, we've been placed in front of us somebody that draws that out in us so that we may have the opportunity to see it. Boom. Here is your opportunity to see it. Now, what have we done with all of our relationships? We forgot that was what it was for, right? Maybe in the beginning we were like, ooh, we can discover love here. We can discover the capacity in which we're able to love. And then the fear comes. And the fear comes again from that tiny mad idea that somehow I could be separate. The Course says that we are waves of the ocean. When we look at it, there is nowhere where I begin and where you end. However, the tiny mad idea was, what if I am a separate wave from the other waves in this great ocean? What if I am a separate sunbeam from the sunbeam of this great sun? Now, that engenders all the fear. You are separate wave amongst all the other waves in the great ocean. The fear of it overcoming you and somehow hurting you becomes so real. And now we put our guards up. And for the past couple of weeks, we've talked about how we build this army and it's reflected. See, our own fear is reflected in our world. Our fears and our building of the army in our mind manifests into all the money being spent on military, all the technology being spent on bombs. Can we make the biggest bomb? We're not going to drop it, but we'll put it behind this wall. And then we also got to make sure nobody else makes it. If they do, it's weapons of mass destruction. We got to go and intervene. And so we build these big walls. Now, it's only a matter of time. This is what the Course says. If you focus on those loveless thoughts and you focus on separation, you will unleash that bomb on somebody. As we've seen in history, that the United States decided to unleash that bomb on somebody. And now we're all back to like, oh, yeah, it's all good. Now, that shows the power of forgiveness. See, human beings have an innate power of forgiving. The forgiveness is to let go of your emotional judgments. It's almost creating this barrier to that traumatic event. And we're super capable of doing that. Now, we choose, though. We choose where we will forgive and where we won't, based on how right we want to be in the moment. So, how have we done relationships and how do we get here? Right? The idea of separation manifests into bodies that are separate. When bodies are separate, then we can actually justify hurt, that it is dangerous. See, that's one way of thinking. The other, and that way of thinking, of course, creates a whole ton of fear. There's all these other bodies out there, all these other waves in the ocean. One of them's bound to hurt me. And if one of them's bound to hurt me, all of them can hurt me. And then we spiral down the rabbit hole of fear. Now, the other way to look at it is that there is no separation. If all the waves are one, then I feel safe in the great ocean. I don't need to be building up an army in the back, behind my walls. I can focus on more loving thoughts. And now let's bring it all back to how we've done relationships. Every single person that we could have loved, we've pushed away somehow. And the way that we push it away is we create a character of this person and we put them in a box. And then we build on expectations, right? We build on expectations, and this is how we destroy our relationships. This is how loveless thoughts start to come in, because expectations is basically a line. The Course calls it special relationships. This line, I meet you, I'm so inspired by you, I love you, and then I start pushing this line towards you. And you know how we do it? The responsibility of my happiness and my sadness and my experience of attack is now up to you. And I push this line closer to you. Now, we keep pushing this line closer to somebody. What's eventually going to happen? They're going to cross it. They're going to cross it because maybe they're not in their love thoughts, full love thoughts, right? Maybe you say something that triggers them and then all of a sudden that happens. And then now we put them in the new box of that they are dangerous to us. And because they could hurt me, somebody else could do the same. And now we've created another illusion off of one experience. And it isn't even real. It never happened, but it could happen. And now we have an experience of fear around others. And so we just go and create loveless relationships that way. Now, to return to love is not that hard. To return to love is simply to say to yourself, and I hope everybody that hears this, okay, I hope this impacts your life, is that when you are having moments of trigger or loveless experience, you simply have a tiny, tiny prayer of, I am willing to see it a different way. That's the only prayer you need to come back from anger, to come back from all your triggers. You simply have to keep repeating to yourself, I am willing to see this a different way. When you're willing to see it a different way, love will reveal itself to you, right? There's a story that we heard in the trainings, and I'm sure anybody that has done the trainings have heard this, or maybe not. I'm not sure. Maybe it came from the trainings. I don't know. But there is a father with a bunch of kids, with a couple of kids on the train. Actually, I think this was a meditation that we did. It might have been in a training or in some training that I did. But you're sitting on the train and the kids are running around. And the dad has no control of the kids and they're just running around going all crazy. And you sit there and what's your thoughts? What's the judgments? Right? Especially if they run around and they knock into your coffee and you spill it on your newspaper or on your new pants. All right, let's go that far. Or you got new shoes on, and they got muddy shoes, and they run around and they step on your shoes. Now you got this giant dirt thing on your shoe. And you're just watching the dad. The dad's not doing anything, and the kid's running around all crazy. Right? And you see the dad kind of disconnected. All the judgments. This is loveless thoughts creating an experience of annoyance for you. And then all of a sudden you're like, excuse me, like your kids are out of control. And the dad goes, oh, hey, I'm sorry. Their mom just passed away. I don't really know what to tell them. That will immediately create a shift in your thinking. Now you can now you all of a sudden listen from a compassionate space, from an empathetic space, from a kindness space. That no matter what's going on, you still see the goodness in that. You still see forgiveness. You see it right through what's happening to love. Can't we choose that before all the judgments so that we don't have the loveless experience? That takes training. That takes practice. That brings us back to why people are placed in front of us. That there is no accidents, that every single person is put in front of you so you could have that compassionate thought before the judgment. Your mom, your friends, your brother, your sister, whoever, your ex, everybody placed in front of you so perfectly for you to recognize that they are the door to heaven for you. They are the door. And in that moment, those people are put in front of you so that you can correct your thinking, so you can shift your thinking. Every single person. Now, that is how you create true loving relationships, is to see every single person that way. That they are a teacher and they are the gates or the door to heaven for you. Every one of them. If we remember that, would we have as many loveless thoughts and loveless experiences? Yeah. We don't need to know all the details. We can extend the love ahead of time. We can extend the compassion ahead of time. That no matter what I'm seeing, it could be an illusion that isn't real, because the only thing that is real is everybody is doing their best and everyone is an innocent being or child or extension of God. That means every single person is full extension of God. And God is this giant computer returning all of our minds to love, the collective. That means every person, everything, every experience put in front of you is designed for you to remember, if you so choose to see it correctly, is what the Course says. And we recognize it because we know. We recognize truth, we recognize love because we've always known. And it brings goosebumps, it brings tears, it brings whatever for you. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So, man, what a freaking amazing topic this is. Always and forever. I think it's something that we all have times and moments throughout our lives that we're constantly struggling with. Me especially. I think what brought this up for me is that, like I've had this long-term relationship with my sister-in-law, and she has, the upraising was completely different for the daughters without a father, but when she married and we had our kids, they didn't understand us having kids and the responsibilities of it. And then when they had their own, my sister-in-law had her own, um, things changed and were different. So what happened was, my kids got older, and they went through some of their own things. And what I found was that because there was this poor interaction within the sisterhood, it created a gap in the relationship, and certain circumstances came up with our children, and then she kind of like at that point just kind of separated us from the entirety of their lives, right? Our niece and nephew's lives completely. And then there was other moments where she kind of created separation from even my only small family in their lives. And what this created was this like I never had the courage to even speak up about it. And it wasn't until maybe just a few months ago, I literally said, because she kept us out of their lives for like 18 years, and I literally said to her, finally got the courage up, because I never wanted to create rifts in the family, and I felt like I had no control over it. And I said to her, finally, I was like, listen, this is what's on my heart. You've kept us separated from your children all these years, and I think that I created that separation in relationship at that time because I didn't feel like if they didn't want us in their lives, then I didn't feel like there was a purpose being in there. Like, so she pushed away my entire family, but she didn't. Like, she'd invite us to certain things, but most of the things, nothing at all. Like, no soccer games, no nothing. So I finally released that pain in my heart because I've let it go. And I said to her that, like, this is what's been running in my veins all these years in my mind and thought. And so I really created a complete separation within that relationship. And I'm trying to find that space where, like, it's not like forgiveness. I think it's been like more like acceptance that this is her choices that she's made for the families to be separate. But I'm still finding in my heart where can I find that unconditional love, even though there isn't that connection point, even though it's something she might want on her terms, but trying to find a place in my heart where I can say, and I say I love them right where they're at unconditionally, but there's still conditions in my head. Like, I still feel that pain. I still feel like, why did this all the separation have to happen? And so I'm still looking for that place of sovereignty in my own mind space, my own reality, that I can say, you know what, it just is what it is. And I let this go unconditionally, and I love them for where they are, even though we're not connected. I mean, everything you said today was just freaking awesome, and you like rocked right into it, really opened up some space in my own, existence here to receive the messages that you shared. And I'm sure everybody else has received a lot too. But maybe there's some way that you can possibly show me a different light of that in which I'm processing all the time, so that I can, even clear more space for love.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that share. I can't show it to you, but you can show it to you. You can show it to you by asking. See, the guide is in all of us. You know the answer. You're already walking towards the answer. You're already asking for that unconditional loving thought. Now, all you have to do is ask Spirit to show you a different way of looking at what you're already seeing, what you think you're actually seeing, and what you think you're experiencing, and what you think you've seen in the past. See, a bunch of the stuff that you shared was just your perspective of a certain event that played out up to this point. You have to ask Spirit, you have to ask the Holy Spirit to show you all of those things differently. I can't show it to you. I can be a reminder right now to ask Spirit. I can't show it to you because I don't live in your shoes. And hopefully through what I share, it inspires the question of the letting go, and you letting go. This is the way I've had it. And that maybe through this conversation and in your own mind, if you witnessed your own thinking, right? If there's any resistances to what I'm saying right now, is because in your own thinking, there's a defense and there's a wanting to be right about something. And in that wanting to be right, it stops you from hearing Spirit or allowing Spirit to show you a different way to look at it. You want to say something else, Mark? That's sign language, and it's not accurate sign language, so I don't get it.
You're muted.
Still muted. Okay, no worries. But yeah, every time that you have a little disturbance in you, every little piece of you losing your peace, like a small tiny part, a little annoyance, a little judgment, a little uneasiness, any tiny part of that showing up, it's all equally disturbing to the mind. There is no big or little disturbance to the mind. It's all equal. And so first, yeah.
Thanks. I got my mute off. I'm in the screen. I just want to share it too.
Great.
No, that's perfect. I think it's really just being the observer of my mind when even the smallest fraction wants to show up for me to think about it. It's just being aware of it and acknowledging that my mind still wants to process the situation, and then just say, listen, we're choosing peace in this very moment. And I understand what you're thinking, but, thanks for caring, but stop sharing kind of thing.
You're telling your ego this, yeah?
Yeah, tell the ego this.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so when you're having those, remember, when you're having those loveless experiences, those moments of just judgment, of annoyance, of attack, if you have a little bit of those, it's because it first stemmed from a thought that you had that was not of love. And so when we look at all of our relationships across the board, how many relationships have we messed up? And maybe we're not in a space to be like, oh, I messed them up because they did this. Well, how many times have we broken relationships? Right? Like that we ended off on bad terms, that we don't talk to each other anymore, that we still hold them in prison for something. There's never any accidents. Every single person that is placed in front of you is placed there for a reason, and they will stay with you until you've learned. Just because they're not physically in front of you does not mean they are not with you. They are in your mind. And if they're in your mind, it's real. Because if they're in your mind, they will create form for you. They will control the way that you react to other things, to other people. So who are those people that you're still allowing to dictate loveless reactions and thoughts and judgments and attacks and all of that? Who is in your mind that you still allow that to happen with? There's still the computer. God is still putting them in your space to teach you because you have not learned yet. Right? Like, just because my father is not with me anymore physically does not mean he's not with me all the time. Just because you broke up with your ex does not mean that your ex isn't with you all the time. Because you still haven't really broken up. And there is no such thing as breaking up. See, that's the illusion. Just because we physically separate, we can still be in harmony and in love. And that's a very odd thing for us in the physical world. So go ahead, Donna. Before you.
That's for sure. I like that thought.
Good morning. And Mark, I had two sister-in-laws do something similar to my husband and his side of the family. So anyway, but it's interesting that we're having this conversation because recently I had a friend, for about 4 years, and I was watching the news, like, I try to watch both sides just because, I like to know what's going on both sides of the fence. But it seemed like when I turned on CNN that day, it just seemed like another attack on a certain political figure. And, normally we don't get too much into politics, but I just mentioned something about like a witch hunt, which may have been my own issue. It just felt like it at that moment. And boy, oh boy, did this friend go off on me like hate, 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 hate. And so, completely stopped talking to me. So, but I want to say how much A Course in Miracles has been helping me, because I think I would have, took it so much differently, been more righteous about it. But I just said, you know what, if God wants this relationship to end, then it has to end. And so I want to thank you for all these lessons, because in the past it wouldn't have been that way. So thanks, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. And that's the reminder that there could be another way, right? There could be another way to look at it. And, these calls are reminders. They're reminders for me, things that I lose my peace over. But we have to always ask, show me a different way to look at it. I'm willing to see a different way to look at it, right? There's a fight breaks out, something that I watch in the news that just shocks me or angers me or creates judgment. I want peace, right? We forget that we want peace. We think we want something else that may offer us something better than peace. So we look to be right. We look to attack. But if we can catch ourselves in those moments and say there's a different way to look at it. I'm willing to see it differently. And like that story I shared, we can meet it with compassion and love. And that's the experience we'll have. But if we think there's sides to be taken, if we think somebody else could be wrong at the expense of me being right, or I will be wrong at the expense of them being right, see, that brings us back to the one problem that we have, that we think somehow we are separate from another. Yes, body-wise, we have all the justification. We have all the reasoning to think that we are all separate and that somebody can hurt us. And if somebody can hurt us, anybody can hurt us. So, of course, we justify the army we build behind the wall. But every single moment And every relationship, whether they're with you physically or not, your heart is either open or it's closed. There is no in between, and no reasoning of it being closed is justified. Right? Like in right now, there's probably the ego's like, no way. They did this, and they will hurt you if you let them. Right? The ego is screaming right now when you say that there is no justification for the army that you're building. And we have to first come to terms with that and be willing to see it that way. We don't need to see it that way right now. We just need to have the willingness. See, the Course says you don't need anything but a willingness. You guys being on this call, anybody clicking onto my live right now, there is a willingness to see things differently. And every single one of us, we live in a body. We can use what's being shared right now. Every one of us, including me. I mean, I practice A Course in Miracles all the time. I still freak out and lose my shit all the time. Okay, I still lose my peace all the time. I still judge sometimes. Right? But you know what I do? I laugh at myself very, very quickly. And the Course says the separation and the fear came when the Son of God forgot to laugh. Enlightenment is the waking up from body to spirit. And the only way we can wake up to spirit is we use each other, we use our relationships, we see the reflection of spirit. There is spirit operating that is beyond the physical. So do you want to wake up? The dream is great. We're like, yeah, we're in the dream. The dream, there's no judgments about the dream. But the dream has you see people as threats. Now, you can hang around in that all you want. But God knows in reality, nothing has happened. It's all a dream. Go ahead, Lenka.
Yeah, well, of course, I wanted to jump in. And so this obviously affects me a lot too. That was Ghana, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel that's almost like this political climate that we're in is just a playground of doing this work. And I try not to get down on myself like, damn, I still have so much more work to do because I'm being so triggered, by politics. And as Donna was sharing her story, I do the same thing. Like I will say the same thing about people who watch Fox News. I feel gay people are being attacked. I feel the public school system's being attacked. I feel that Fox News does nothing but attack Biden. And then I'm with friends who have spouses who say very similar to what Donna says. And it's I'm still working on it. But it's at those moments I try to realize, wait a minute, they're me, I'm them. We're both falling for the same illusion. And it's affecting us exactly the same way. And this is my moment to help me remember who I really am, help them remember who they really are, and to remember the ultimate truth. We're just here to walk each other home in love. I'm getting better at it, but I still find myself engaging in that back and forth from the ego about political sides, which news stations doing, is worse or what have you. It'll always be a playground. But I really, resonated to what Donna said because, especially early on, a few years ago when our politics started to get really bad, we know a lot of relationships were broken. We know a lot of people took their corners more than they ever did before. And I've lost a lot of people. And so I'm still sitting in that space of what can I do to prevent any more loss? And what am I doing to contribute to that distance in this relationship? I've got so much work to do because I feel my stubbornness, my righteousness, my pride, and all are tied to my belief systems that all come from the ego are definitely contributing to the division. So that's where I'm at right now. It's just not easy work. This whole political climate for some of us is just going to be an ongoing challenge, I think. And I'm just glad to be on these calls because any little bit that works, I grab it and I stick with it. And I just keep piling on whatever other little bit works. So I just want to share that. And Donna, I completely relate to what you're saying. We're saying the same thing.
Awesome. And here is the real turmoil. See, the turmoil seems like I lost this and I lost that. And, how do I prevent it from happening? The forgiveness, the true forgiveness, comes from the recognition that none of that even happened. No losses happened. There's only a waking up. See, in time, if time is horizontal like this, then yeah, it seems like something happened and whatever. But in eternity, the entire time frame is brought back into one, then nothing actually happened because we return to love. We will all return to love, right? So first is to recognize it's beyond what you thought have happened. If we're trying to correct something, see, that's the forgiveness that we have. That's 180 degrees from A Course in Miracles forgiveness. I'm trying to work on what I've done wrong. I'm forgiving and trying to fix the separation I created. And all that really does is the ego's ingenious way of making the separation more real. The true forgiveness is to recognize that all of this was divinely planned for our awakening. There's only one will and one plan that's happening. Nothing could have ever been wrong. Everything happened perfectly as is so that I may wake up in this moment. So it served the collective waking up. I don't need to do anything so that others think anything. I simply wake up, and because there is no separation, everyone wakes up. There is no let me wake up and then let me help others wake up. There's just simply, there's one awakening happening. Okay, now this is high level. So if we can get there, sometimes we can connect to that high level, sometimes we can't. Now, when we can't, we need practices. We need practices to bring us back to peace. It's simply to recognize that every single person is our teacher, is the peace that the computer or God has put in front of us so that we may see. Did you want to say something, Donna?
Oh, sorry, no, I hit the wrong button.
Okay, no worries. Oh, yeah, sorry. And so the Course says, see, who says it? Maybe Marianne Williamson says this, but the Course, Marianne, all same. That spiritual truth, right? The truth, which is stated through A Course in Miracles, all religious texts across the world. Okay, there is a truth that is spoken. You have to see it. You have to see beyond the words in there. Truth comes as abstract for us to start. Truth comes abstract for us. When we hear something, ooh, yeah, that sounds good. It's abstract first. And as we practice it every day, it deepens from the mind to the heart. And then we have a deeper connection, a spiritual connection to the truth. And if we see a spark of light, we're reminded of light. And if we're reminded of light, it will move and change us forever. Just because we don't see something, it does not mean it's not there. Just because it got lost, it does not mean it never existed. And what got lost was that nothing, the split never happened. That our minds are always still joined. And in order for us to recognize that, we have to see beyond the body. And that's why enlightenment really is just the waking up from the body to spirit. And if it's spirit talking to spirit, how could we hurt each other? So we have to, coming back down, if we're not connected to that huge vision all the time and to source and to love, then what is our practice like now? What type of practice can we do? And the practice is the human being, the other body that has been placed in my life, that has been placed in my mind. Right now, in this moment, we can all think about someone in our mind. They are here. There is people that will come and cross paths with us today that is designed as a mirror, a wake-up call for you. Every single person that you meet today is designed for the collective to wake up. There is no accidents of people crossing paths. I mean, think about the chances of it happening. If you don't believe in that, just think about the chances of somebody running into you, any stranger in the grocery store today. Anywhere in the world, 8 billion people at this time in eternity, of all the ages that they could have been born, they were born a certain time, and then all the dots connected for you to run into them in the supermarket today. There is no way that's an accident. Now, we can chalk it up as chance, but there is no accidents of anybody that you see. So can you be aware enough? See, that's the aliveness that we can tap into. Can we be aware enough to the mysteries of these connections? I mean, it's insane. It's insane what must line up for you to run into somebody in the grocery store today. No amount of lottery that you can win is equivalent to that chance encounter. That's how powerful and holy and great that encounter is. Now, we just, we don't have to recognize all of them, but to be alive, when I go to a meetup event, the relationships I create, the people that are on these calls, the people that are on my Monday, Thursday calls, I deeply try to be aware of, wow, the mystery of how we could possibly be in the same space at the same time. And that they're open to hearing what I'm saying. I want to explore relationships deeply. What is the assignment from God? That's how I can pay attention to everyone without judgment when I am networking, when I'm building relationships. Now, once I've built the relationships, that's a different story, right? Like, I can't help it. Sometimes stories get created. I put people in boxes, but the practice is to recognize that we're doing it, and also to forgive ourselves. See, it's not when we think about something, we're like, "Ooh, I gotta remind myself who I am today, so that I can also remind them, and so that we can do this dance." But there is no separation. If there is no separation between you and I, it doesn't matter who gets forgiven first. And see, a lot of it actually comes down to just us not being able to forgive ourselves. Here I go again. I judged again. I said something that created separation again. I got all involved in politics again. With me and my wife, I'm like, oh, I did it again. I'm always, but see, the laughter part, when you're willing to laugh at it, and just from a place of like, wow, here I go. See, there's one way of attacking yourself, and there's one way of letting it go. The separation and the fear and the loveless thoughts that came all stemmed from when the Son of God forgot to laugh. So, welcome everybody. Everyone that's a little bit not late, but everyone that's joining us now, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Go ahead, Marlene.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute sooner. Alex, everything that you say, as always, is it's beautiful, it's uplifting. But here it comes the but, right? Like the but part is in the past. As I have shared here, I grew up Catholic. I still, consider myself. I'm not gonna like baptize you, say in any other faith. I don't think that's needed, but I know that in the Bible, Jesus said, if anything hit you in a cheek or something like that, I don't know the translation exactly, but if someone hit you, you're supposed to offer the other cheek. And as much as I try to practice that in real life, it only left me feeling the victim of the situation. And here I am as an adult trying to really regain my power. Excuse me, regain that power, because they said if anyone ever have hurt you, is because basically you have given that power away and you allow it. So once again, just like last call, I feel divided. Okay, which one is the path? Because if on one hand I'm supposed to give the other cheek, offer it, and on the other hand I will end up feeling as a victim of the situation, then I'm not serving myself in the best of my own interest. I understand that the bottom line of that is that yes, I still believe there are two people here. It's not just one. I'm sorry, but I'm not there yet, let's say. It's beautiful concept, and for whomever is out there that is still, is not enlightened as I am, because I'm not the first one to recognize that in this sharing. How can I marry the two, the two concepts? This couple that seems to be regaining my power or giving my power away to someone who is not loving me. It's obvious, when there is an attack, when there is like hurtful words, and it's obvious the intention behind that. I would have to be, oh my God, almost like a kid, right? Like the kids do not react to that kind of thing, but I cannot anymore. I'm an adult. How do you go about that?
Yeah, so there's two ways to see it. One is that they're attacking you, right? That whatever they're doing, whatever they're saying is horrific and they're hurting you. Another way to look at it is that they're just asking for love. They're asking to be seen. They're asking for their voice to be heard. They're calling for love because they're projecting the hurt that they feel. That's one way to look at it. And everything is either love or a call for love. See, in the moments that you feel attacked, love could be called upon there. It could be compassion. Let me have compassion for this person. Let me look beyond the words that they're saying and the hurtful things that I'm hearing. Let me be compassionate with myself, right? Because now I have an idea of this work that we're doing. It's very easy for us to take transformational type of work and weaponize it. Man, I mean, think about it. All religious scripts, all transformational work that can transform you, we weaponize it. And we actually turn it to war. Because when war is on your mind, you cannot escape it no matter what type of tools that you have. So again, what you said was, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's fine. Because you can't. That is why the Holy Spirit is in us. You are not asked to get out of the insane world that you've created. You've dreamed it. You believe it's real. Of course, you're not going to get out of it on your own. You need a reminder. You need a guy to gently be like, hey, it's okay. Here, this is a different way to look at it. It's like the Scrooge, right? I mean, what is that? Night before Christmas, it's like you get to see, if you saw all the other stories play out, if you saw somebody else's shoe, if you got to see their whole life play out, you would be so compassionate to why they're even saying what they're saying. And you just see it with love, like they're just cursing at you. You're like, yeah, let it out. Let it out, my friend. Right? Like that totally could be a possibility. But that requires you to be so grounded in your own holiness that you you don't see it as an attack, because you are projecting so much love and it's cutting through that. The light is cutting through all the darkness. And it's within all of us. We can't see it unless we use it. When others have so much, when there's so much darkness, and I call upon the light, and I call on the light, which I call on the Holy Spirit, show me to look at it differently. I'm willing to look at it differently. Right? That's good. Those two follow each other. Show me another way to look at it. I'm willing to look at it a different way. So those two things, just keep saying, whenever you feel what you're feeling, just use those two mantras over and over again. Please, Spirit, God, whatever, whoever you want to call upon, universe, please show me a different way to look at it. And I am willing to see it differently. You're not asked to figure it out on your own. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Marlene, like, is physical. Marlene cannot. I know that for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And the thoughts that enter your mind, think about it. Do you even have control of the thoughts that enter your mind? What or who puts it there? I say this all the time. I'm just so amazed at all the different. Yesterday, we're driving and an ambulance kind of cuts us off. And I'm like, wow, it's so incredibly amazing that in every city, no matter how crappy the city is, no matter how small the town is, somebody decides that they're going to be in this ambulance going around saving people's lives. Like, how is it that many people and everywhere in the world that role is filled? It's insane to me. Not insane, like bad insane, but like insanely miraculous that that's possible. No matter how small the town, there's an ambulance, and then there's some people that's like, yeah, I wanna be an EMT, and I'm gonna go through all this and see like crazy stuff, but I'm gonna just save people's lives. And then how come that's not in me? Why do I not have the drive to want to be an EMT and do all that? So do we really have a choice? Or are we just following our destiny to wake up? That's it. I will play my role. Here's my garden. I will tend to my garden with the most love that I can and share it from this place. That makes me incredibly unique. But it also does not make me that unique at all. I'm special, but also not special. I'm no more special and no less special than anybody else. And now I start to even the playing ground. See, the problem is we always have this authority problem. We don't want people to be above us. We try to level up with any guru, any teacher that we follow, because that's our relationship with God. We want to take over. I got this. I got this. All right. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, brother. So I just really wanted to ask you a question. So when you prepared for today, is there something you read completely through, and you prepared your thoughts and what you wanted to say about the topic, or do you just read the specific topic and you just get on with it, and then it just channels through you?
I guess there's a combination. You know, I've been practicing trying to be prepared a little bit more so that I could be more impactful on what I'm saying. Like I have coaches teaching me these things. Um, I have like 2 sentences written down to start today's call. That's about as prepared as I get. And then I call upon this moment to give me what I need. You know, like I have all the things in my life. I got to trust it. All the things that showing up for me is meant for me to use for something. Like I have an endless amount of things to talk about and to teach from with my learning in my relationship with love, with Babeski. You know, like every moment there's so much teaching stuff and I try to write it down, but I have so much notes everywhere that I can't find it when I need to call upon it. And before the call, I literally say like, God, this call is you work through me. Tell me what to say. Right? This is the topic I want to go with. I wrote it down before the call. You know, how do we build how do we build better relationships? And it just so happens it's because this week people have been talking to me about relationships and I see it and I see problems in certain relationships. You know, I was having a really profound conversation with somebody that that I'm going to be partnering up with, and his fear, he went into a deal with 3 other people, and they were raising capital for a deal together, and then when it got hard, they just ditched them. They ditched them completely and just left. And he ended up losing money, you know, and didn't have the deal go through. So he's got a little bit of that fear. And now why is this conversation happening with me right now? It must mean in this moment I get to heal something for myself too. Right? Or I get to represent something that's different. I get to interrupt a certain thinking. I get to shift that story because that story is not just his. That story is ours. And I have the opportunity to shift it through the way that I could be a partner with him. How could I be? Right? It isn't even about making money. It's about this story. It's about this narrative that we get to interrupt together. Because now it's in my space. No accidents, right? Why would this happen? So, you know, when we see relationships like that we find a deeper purpose to relationship, that there's a learning, a waking up together. That's the right way to see all our relationships. But if we forget that, we all of a sudden see people as threats and people can hurt us. And if we think that, see, loveless thoughts create and manifest loveless experiences. And we will turn that relationship into evidence that lovelessness, in fact, exists. And then we've poisoned ourselves. Maybe not poisoned ourselves, but we've forgotten in that moment. We've allowed darkness to come over the light. The clouds just showed up. But see, clouds are clouds. They aren't even real. You can't touch it. Just go right through it and the light's still there. Right? So we just move clouds in our mind. All right. So yeah, I don't, you know, I just trust completely. And every single one of these calls, I just practice trusting. But I also see that, you know, more preparation can create different experiences for people, could impact people deeper. So, you know, I'm always looking at that too and looking for strategic partnerships in that way. Yeah.
I'm just want to acknowledge you for just being that open channel, knowing that, you know, once you're passionate about whatever it is that you're dealing through, what you bring forth to us to go through, and that what the words that come through are always perfect for everybody, including you. You know, so I just want to acknowledge that. Yeah, it's like I know that you flow because otherwise, if you were that prepared, it's not your technique, and it always comes up so perfect. So I just want to say thank you for just staying in an open channel and just flowing what feels right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just totally trust the people that are going to be on this call and the contribution that's going to be here. Any thought that's happening in our space right now, it's collectively happening. You guys, even if you're not saying anything, the fact that you're here participating, your thoughts are channeling and are connected. We're interconnected. All the people that are watching on lives and stuff, right? Like words do not need to be said. There's a communication that happens that goes beyond words. And so just presence creates the conversation. So I try to tap into it as much as I can. And I just know I do my best. And if I mess up, which I do all the time, I go off on tangents. I don't answer questions. I'm just like, whatever. And I just laugh at it and then we move on. Right. So, all right. Yeah. Thank you for that. Antoine, go ahead, brother.
Good morning. Thank you for such an amazing call. Question is, I'm trying to take everything into perspective and listen to some of the questions. The word paradigm comes to mind, where we have good ones and bad ones. One of your good ones is you're always available. You make yourself available. You're consistent. Your message is very spiritual, dynamic. It's very deep. So we all recognize these paradigms in good and bad ones in people that we are associated with. And every time I hear you say, you laugh at it and all these good things, what I wanted to ask you was, so, I may know this person and they have all these bad habits. And because I recognize them, I kind of know it will happen again in the future sometime, right? So I can't just say, it happened and I'm going to forget about it, or it happened, that time has passed. It doesn't exist anymore. But somewhere in me, I'm like, yeah, but it's a paradigm and it's going to happen again. And I don't know if I necessarily have the power to change them or do something about it or just laugh about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, okay, I can almost predict it's going to happen just because I know it's a habit that they allow themselves to believe in. It was passed down to them. It's a thing about their environment, whatever it is, right? So, with respect to knowing it's a paradigm, it might happen again versus just laugh at it. I think laughing at it is good when both of you get to talk about it and recognize it and then they repeat it, right? But how about, if you don't have that level of relationship with them and talk about it, and so you can laugh at it, but it's coming again. So that's kind of where I'm stuck with all the message that I'm receiving today.
So, see, we think something needs to happen. Just because it happened before does not mean you have to see it the same way again the next time. So it does change. What does change is your perception about it, because you're doing the forgiveness work on it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, they have their behaviors. It's going to happen again. But it's happening. It does not mean you should have the same reaction to it. That's how it changes. That's how the healing happens, because it's happening as long as you've shifted your perception around it. The relationship is shifting. The waking up is happening because there is no separation. But again, all of our problems, including the one you just asked, comes from the problem that we think there is you and then there's me. That we don't believe we're actually interconnected. That means your behavior is good or bad. According to me. It's not even according to God or anything, just according to me. That means I could change it. One moment, look, if somebody's if my brother-in-law has road rage, okay, he's always road raging. And I can be like, that's freaking terrible. I can attack him about it. Road rage is on his mind. He's going to road rage everything. He's not going to take that as a way to heal it. He's just going to get worse, because I've just highlighted it and made it even bigger and more real. And now he has to defend against it, which causes more rage. But I could first time be annoyed and judge. And then the next time, because I'm working on it myself, the relationship to it, Next time I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool, he's doing it. And before you know it, because you're not participating. Road rage is like when you're driving and you just like when someone cuts you off or anything happens, you're stupid, whatever, throwing the finger up and all that. Just, getting crazy while you're driving. So got it. Yeah. So road raging, right? So I can shift my experience around the road raging happening. You could shift your experience around them doing something. Oh, here it comes again. Instead of expecting it and then expecting your same response to it, right? Reaction to it, actually. Oh, here it comes again, and that's going to cause me to feel this way, but it does not have to. The course says the world does not need to change. Only the way that I see it needs to change. I need to see beyond the fog, the clouds, right? All the chaos. I need to be able to cut through it to see the love. Hey, Dominique, what's up, brother? So, I would say instead of trying to have them change their behavior, just try to change the way that I see it. And again, this comes into our mantra works. Please show me a different way to look at it, and I am willing to see it differently. And then just allow spirit to help you shift the experience around whatever they're doing, good or bad. And as you remove the judgment from it, it no longer affects you. And if it no longer affects you, they don't even really want to participate in it. Like it'll just shift. You'll see as you change your mind to a place of love, the conversation changes, the way that they respond and react in front of you changes. Nobody's doing anything because they're getting no value out of it. They're valuing some sort of response from you. They just don't know they don't want it either. But see, you don't know that you don't want it. That's the thing. Most of us rather be right about the way they have somebody. Again, this is that box, right? This is the box of you. And I want you to keep behaving that way so that I can be right about this box. And then I'm going to go and make myself superior by saying that I am now more enlightened and I see it this way and that way. Nah, if you see it, you got it. That's yours. It's not theirs. It's yours. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps, but really just taking more ownership of the experience of my perception of what's even happening, and then asking spirit to show you to see it differently, and then remove this turmoil and conflict I have about it. Like that's going to happen once you see it differently and you're willing to. So you spoke about paradigm. Your paradigm about that will change. And it's all about the paradigm shifts.
Thank you, Alex. That was very powerful. I think just to take it away, the notion that I think I always thought I was not an active participant in that present moment was a fallacy. By the explanation you just gave, where they are looking for a response as well. And so how you respond has a direct effect or causing consequence kind of a thing in that moment as well. And so I get it. I just thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for all your shares. You're always so real about your shares. You give like real life experiences to take our principles from the course and make it real. So yeah, thanks for always being here that way. And Natalia or Elise, do you guys want to share anything? If you guys have anything to share, feel free to always unmute yourself to share. I know you guys have powerful messages from the course and from your own practices as well, and open for anybody too. Always, when something comes up in your mind, feel free to share it in the space. No accidents, it's there. You guys have till I finish chewing this piece of ice. Okay. Well, if you guys have anything, feel free to just interrupt anytime. So, on these types of calls, and when we do our practices, downloads happen. Okay. Downloads, thoughts, where do they come from? I don't know. We just downloaded it from somewhere. When things are downloaded, you must breathe life into it immediately. Most ideas die at birth because we can't remember shit. We're like, oh man, I just had such a great idea. You don't write it down, you don't act upon it, it will be gone. I mean, maybe it will come back. But there are moments, sometimes I have moments of clarity about what I want to say. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to start my call in this way. If I don't write it down and take action, breathing life into it with some sort of action, I forget it. Last night before I went to sleep, I had this clear vision of how I wanted to start this call today. No idea. Can't remember at all. Because I was like, I'm already laying in bed. Don't want to do anything. And I didn't write it down. But it was something I wanted to start the call with, and I can't remember. But it would have been great. Or maybe not. I don't know. It'll come back, I'm sure. Go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, thank you. So earlier you were, talking about certain people. I mean, like people's call to love for love, right? Like the way that people behave is generally a call for love. And so, and then when you're talking with Antoine, it was like, we're responsible for. But my question is, like, do we speak up ever when there's something that just doesn't feel right, or do we just adjust our thinking? Constantly, like when someone behaves and they're calling for love, but it's not in a healthy way, that you feel like it's crossing your boundaries. What do you do there?
Yeah. So know that you speak up or you don't speak up. Either way, you're going to learn. This is a learning opportunity. You need not really do anything because nothing's actually happening. But if you want to speak up, you will speak up. Now, your speaking up, you can recognize based on the returns that you get, the experience that you get out of speaking up. Do you experience conflict and turmoil and stuff after you spoke up? If you do, then you have probably projected the same thing out there. Actually, you have. Lovelessness was projected and it caused conflict. And then you're going to want to be right about it and all of that. But you can laugh about it, clear it up, and then be like, hey, just call the person completely neutrally the next day. Hey, I know we just got into this last night. I just wanted to say, I feel like I'm crazy, just joke about it, like laugh about it. And, I hope there's no hard feelings. Right? That clears it right there. So either you do or don't do, it doesn't matter. Or maybe you don't say anything. The next day you're more grounded after a Course in Miracles call. You call the person and be like, hey, I just, yesterday we talked, you shared this. This is what I think about it. Let me know what you think. Like it doesn't come from an attack anymore. But if usually when you react to something in the moment, you haven't had time. Right. And yeah, the silence. Sometimes the best thing is silence. Because communication's happening through silence. When people say certain things, like judgment wise, and I don't respond at all to it, I'm speaking pretty loudly. I'm just not participating in this. Like, I don't agree with whatever you're saying, and I'm not saying yes or no to it. But for sure, they don't really bring it up again next time because they got no reaction from it. So technically, do you need to respond? Do you need to say anything? Right? The Course says one of the higher levels of consciousness is to recognize that I need do nothing. See, I can do something, but the need to do it is not there. I can do it. Just know that whatever happens, You get to witness yourself doing you. And then you get to play with that.
Very interesting.
Yes, very interesting indeed. Now, do I do this very well? Sometimes, and then other times I don't. Right? There are times that I just kind of like explode, and this is the way I explode. Okay, and me and Love actually gotten to a point where we laugh at this now, because the one thing that triggers me sometimes is when, if I'm her reaction to things, like when it shocks her or whatever, she like gets loud and like yells at me like I'm stupid. So for example, the we had something happen with our Tesla. Oh my god, a lot of stuff happened. Okay, so now I have a $7,000 damage to my Tesla that somebody rented. It's in Utah right now. However, we're driving in the car. I'm looking at my phone, and when I look at my phone, I get car sick super fast in the car. So I had to close my eyes. I'm like, hey, can you just make sure if the tow truck calls, or texts, you just, respond. And then, like 20 minutes later, I wake up, I look at it, I'm like, yo, he texted 20 minutes ago. Maybe I sounded like I was attacking or something. She saw it. She's like, well, what do you want me to do? You had your phone on silent, just like yelled at me. Now, those are the things that sometimes gets me when I get caught off guard and I'm not like grounded, right? Like, who are you talking to? Like, who like said it's okay to talk like this? And my blow up is, who the fuck you talking to? Like, that's my thing. And every time I say that now, we kind of laugh because it's seriously ridiculous. Because I get so angry for a moment. I'm like, who the fuck are you talking to like that? And that's the start of all of our fights every time. And it's just a lesson. It's just, something that I get to learn from every single time. And now it's almost immediately do we like kind of crack up, from when I do that. So it's no longer seen as a threat. See, because of this constant practice over it and the laughter over it, at one point she got real defensive, and then I get real defensive, and then all of that, right? But now we see it as like, wow, this is just, both of just me being ridiculous. I recognize it's ridiculous, and then she feels safe to recognize it's ridiculous, and now we can laugh about it. And then that no longer even seems like a threat, even if I react that way. She no longer sees it as a threat. It's now funny. And then when she laughs about it, I also have gotten to a point where I laugh at it too. Like, I'm not upset because she's laughing, right? Because sometimes when we get upset and somebody laughs at it, it's like now we get even more. We got to puff up even more, right? So, um, Antoine, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'm just gonna draw on my past. Every relationship has ups and downs. And while reading the book The Secret, one of the things I was learning about gratitude. And then when it came to relationships, being grateful for all the relationships that you have. And so back to the previous question, my wife is not on the call, but I think she'll forgive me if I bring this up. She's screaming at me or
okay.
whatever. And my normal reaction is, who the fuck you think you're talking? I'm talking. Who do you think you're talking to right now? Why are you talking to me in this tone? Who do you think that's like
It's a men thing.
the old me, right? That's the reaction, right? And then the new me is like, okay, calm down, don't match that level, don't go there. I'm trying to perceive it differently. And I think with some help that I've had before, it's like, okay, practice active listening instead of reacting. And so I'm like, okay, this is what I think I heard you say. I can easily say, okay, I practice active listening, repeat what they said, and that kind of calms them down. They feel like you're listening. But in the message that I'm trying to give here was that instead of going defensive mode by being at peace, finding peace in the moment, calming down, not to match the negative vibration, whatever I am, I was able to what am I trying to say? Find accountability in myself, meaning that I realized that okay, I can just deflect, or okay, maybe I do have an imperfection that triggers her, right? So In this case, I could be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry because yeah, you said it 2 times and I keep forgetting, and I understand why you're mad, right? So it's not always a case of maybe not reacting to the moment in a negative way because you don't want to match their negativity, but it could be an opportunity to be an active participant, um, and they're looking for a reaction, and that could be true peace and calmness. Find accountability for your own bad paradigms that are triggering that person, and then acknowledge it in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's always powerful to be responsible for everything, that happens. That is the transformational work and everything, is that I'm responsible for it all. I participated. I'm obviously responsible because there is some sort of participation in there. That's on my part, right? So, yeah, good good share. I'm glad that you and I share the same thing over there. uh so, yeah. Uh-huh.
Something for me. So in my circle, I've been known as the lawyer. I will argue the crap out of anything. I want to be right, and I can get into it. And in the last 6 months, I've just shifted completely, and I just ask, like when I feel like I'm gonna start to get into it, I ask myself, is this gonna bring me joy, love, peace, or money? Then I'm not in for it. Like literally, that's the question I keep repeating to myself, and I'm like, I'm not about this. Like, okay, you know what? This doesn't matter. It won't matter in 2 minutes. We'll be arguing, and then in 2 minutes we'll. So it's like, why waste the time? Why waste my breath? So I've been doing that the last 6 months, and it's just been a huge shift for me. Just like I ask myself, I just repeat that in my mind. Is this gonna? No. Okay, then walk away. Let it go. So I don't know.
No, it's good. I mean, we need these little practices, little reminders, right? And Brooke, oh my God, that is so funny. I can't believe, like, I know that there is a scenario in which somebody would get extremely triggered from you saying that. Oh man. Now there's probably multiple ways to say it, which one comes from love, but we can't hide our energies, right? Because you can say, "Do you need a hug?" Like, sometimes love will be like, "Okay, heart hug." I'm like, "Okay, fine, heart hug." Right? But if you're like, "Do you need a hug?" Were you not hugged enough as a child? Like now, like you're attacking, but in a way that's like, "Ooh, let me look good while I'm attacking," right? So it's that passive aggressive attack. Yeah, that's so funny.
It is what it is. For me, it's a way to sometimes people don't realize that they're coming off as assholes. So it's my way to be like, hey, you need 5 minutes, you need a hug. And sometimes, or I'll just put my hand on them, like, are you okay? You need some space. It's like me wait, like without me losing my shit. So because I'm like, you know what? I'm not the one. I can be a bitch too and have a temper, and if I can control myself, so can you. Get your shit together. Or I'll just tell, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take a walk. I'm going in timeout. Good luck to you. Figure out your thoughts.
Yeah.
Because I can take this shit.
It's good, like just walking off that battlefield. But sometimes we don't need to walk off the battlefield with saying anything, right? Like that's because sometimes it'll get misinterpreted and gets worse, and then they like follow you and it's like, what'd you say? Or I don't know, maybe it dissolves it. I have no idea. Different situations, different things, I guess. All right, so we've come to the conclusion of this call. This was a great call. You guys were awesome. This was fun. I want to
share something really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just something that happened. As you were saying, what a miracle with having been born at the same time, being the same age, and the people that appeared to your life. As you finished saying that, I get a text from an old friend in a group message with a picture of us from like 15 years ago. And that was just like, wow, what a beautiful miracle. As you said that, I got that message, and then everybody else started responding. It's back when we're in college.
Yeah, it's true, and then think about it, like This is another reason why our minds are all connected, right? Like the fact that that would happen in that moment, like what? Obviously, there's confirmations that this is real. You can see it as a miracle moment. Like, ooh, look at the interconnectedness, and then remember it, and then using that as evidence for yourself. All right, because we got plenty of evidence that we're separate. Okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun. We'll get back to it on Wednesday. And of course, if anybody wants to chat, talk a little bit deeper about any conversations, just message me, and we'll have this conversation. I can talk about this stuff all day. All right. So to sum it up, of course, open up the book. See, it's not a Course of Miracles as the book anymore. Now everyone knows what the book is. Day 267. No, I have not, Brooke. I know. Boo. All right, I'm on it. May war be no more. In a world where every child is born of God's love, where every heart yearns to connect, and every mother prays that her child be protected, still, yet we wage war. God, forgive us. In a world where every heart yearns for peace and every nation needs a rest from violence, where everyone prays that war not come near them if it need come at all, yet we still wage war. God, forgive us. Show us another way. Dear God, please forgive humanity for the heinous thoughts and cold, cruel actions that occur in this blessed earth. May thoughts of peace and yearnings for love swell up as though a mighty wave. May the world be washed clean of the wicked thoughts of fear and separation that tear at our souls and destroy our bodies. May war be no more. Amen.
Amen. And I hope.
Amen. I hope. Thank you, everybody. So amazing. I know I'm going to have a great day today. Sundays and Wednesdays, always. So we need to do this more to make this an everyday occurrence. All right. We'll talk soon. Much blessings to you all.
Alex, love you, brother.
I love you, man. Bye, everybody.